our willingness as a government to open ourselves up to address matters of public concern is a welcome aspect of the good governance and accountability agenda which we pursue. I want to thank the media for playing its role in information dissemination in that regard. Our town hall meetings of up-close dialogue with our people is another distinctive aspect of the good governance agenda and accountability framework being pursued by the Team Unity administration. Our administration has taken the deliberate decision to place a pause on our series of town hall meetings under the theme of good governance and accountability for prosperity. This intermission will be for the entire duration of the Lenten season, which runs from Ash Wednesday, March 1st, through Holy Saturday, April 15th, the third and final day of the Easter Triduum. A review of the history of the liturgical season of Lent would reflect that it is a Christian observance which began way back in the 4th century, covering a period of 40 days, which is reminiscent of the 40-day period which Christ spent in the wilderness before his public ministry began, and during which time he was tempted by Satan and he prevailed. Christians are called to use the season of Lent as a time of prayer, fasting, penance, and almsgiving in preparation for Easter. And we are called by Christ to practice such spiritual behaviors. He made this clear in his Sermon on the Mount. In keeping with the Christian tradition, we call on all citizens and residents to take this Lenten season seriously, to lift up our nation to God in prayer, to thank him for his countless benefits, and to follow his instructions in order that we may have a truly prosperous and peaceful country over which God has given us stewardship. Yesterday, I attended the first of a series of midday worship services under the aegis of the Christian Council. Pastor Hilton Joseph invited me back again next Wednesday and extended the invitation to the entire cabinet. I hereby deliver that to them now. I am delighted not only to invite the cabinet, but all of our citizens and residents to take time out next Wednesday to worship during the luncheon period at the Methodist Church on Seaton Street, Basseterre. The service starts at 11:50, but get into the meat of things at 12 o'clock precisely, and it ends at 12:30. I want to extend an invitation from the cabinet for all to attend a special lecture at the Sir Cecil Jacobs Auditorium at the ECCB this evening. This lecture, you will recall, is part of the Good Governance series which we had started a few weeks back. And this lecture will be delivered by Justice Adrian Saunders of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Sissy Dre. This lecture is part of the Good Governance outreach. In my view, it is an important event. We aim to create over time a culture of good governance and accountability in our country. What better way to effect this than by broad public buy-in of good governance, how it applies to every citizen and resident. Every citizen and resident should demand it, even in their various associations and groups, and also at the individual level. One lecture on this matter, of course, will not suffice. And in this regard, we will build on this auspicious start by Justice Saunders with follow-up discussions, consultations, if you will, by the chambers of the Attorney General across the length and breadth of the country. This will then be followed by a cabinet retreat, and these matters which will culminate in parliamentary action during the course of 2017. We in government, again, welcome the debate on good governance. For the record, as for the political parties involved in the last election, we will claim that we started this discussion. We committed to enhancing good governance, and we are doing it. We are doing it properly, for the record, thoughtfully, and through consultations with the people. Some may differ with our approach. Some, for convenience, may want a rush job, as the last administration did in its waning hours. We are not doing it that old way. We are doing it in an effective way. And we are doing it, in our view, as it ought to be done, involving the people and seeking their buy-in and their support. Because this is critical. In the end, there is a demand and supply for good governance. The people must want it. They must appreciate how this can advance their quality of life so that they can put in their demands in relation to it. And just simply passing a legislation without persons understanding how they fit into it will not do a good job in this regard. That is why we are doing it, in our view, in a more effective way. I want very briefly to report on my visit to Venezuela on Sunday last, which was to attend the 14th summit of the heads of state and government of ALBA TCP. ALBA is the Bolivarian Alliance for the People of Our America, People's Trade Treaty. And this meeting was held, as I said, on March 5, 2017. ALBA is a political, economic, and social alliance that was founded way back in 2004 by the now deceased former presidents of Venezuela and Cuba, His Excellencies Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro, respectively. My delegation's participation was supported by the government of Venezuela, which provided special air services and hosted us in their capital at the Grand Melia Hotel. I am grateful for the support of my Press Secretary, Valencia Grant, who accompanied me on this occasion, and I want to publicly thank the government of Venezuela for its hospitality. In my view, the summit was productive. Heads exchanged views on the evolving international political landscape, including the outcomes in the USA, the Brexit, the immigration matters now facing the EU and the USA, the refugee situation in the Middle East, and we affirm the relevance of ALBA and the associated Petrocarib instruments as instruments to assist states in defending sovereignty and to manage international challenges. An important, tangible development out of that is that the ALBA Bank has now been charged with assisting citizens around the world who may have now to seek legal support and advice as a consequence of the new policy initiatives that could lead to their deportation from those countries whose immigration laws have been violated. So the ALBA Group has recognized, hey, they are citizens. Majority of them will hail from Latin America, and by and large, they are going to need some support to assist them in a difficult period of time, and has pledged resources from the ALBA Bank to support those particular efforts at legal support. Related to that, the heads also endorsed the holding by Bolivia of a World Conference of the People for a World Without Walls. It says towards the universal citizenship, and that will be held from June 20th to the 21st of June 2017. There was a recommitment to work with CARICOM states in particular on matters of trade, and climate change. We pursued bilateral discussions on Monday morning with the government of Venezuela on matters of housing, energy, transportation, and security. In this regard, I'm happy to report that a technical team will be here within the next 2 weeks to advance deliverables and those matters of discussion. I want to commend our people and country because at the beginning of this month, we held 3 conferences, as it were, back to back. On the first, the Growth Forum, organized by the ECCB, on the second, the ECCB Monetary Council, and on the third, the 64th meeting of the OECS Authority. Commendation then must go out for our people for doing it 3 times in a row without any major incident. I say thanks to all, but I want to recognize and acknowledge the work of Ambassador Sidney Osborne in particular, who coordinated the events in relation to the OECS Authority meeting. And equally, commendations are due to our police officers, the staff of the ECCB, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who provided a full range of hospitalities and courtesies. Since a press conference came after each of these events, I would not tarry much in relation to these matters today. I have further good news, and the good news is that which has been quoted in the Nomad Passport Index for 2017. That news says that our passport is now ranked number 1 in the OECS, number 2 in CARICOM, behind Bahamas, and number 50 in the world of 199 countries and territories which were assessed. What a long way we have come since the Douglas administration caused our passports to be assailed because it removed the country of birth field. FinCEN asserted that this major policy breach allowed our passport to get in the hands of illicit actors. The methodology used in this most recent passport ranking considered, among other factors, visa-free travel, which they accorded a high score of 50%, taxation policy, issues to do with freedom, the facility with which persons can have more than one citizenship, among others. St. Kitts and Nevis now have the 6th strongest passport in the hemisphere and the 4th in Latin America and the Caribbean. You would recall that the discredited pass regime was forced on December 10, 2014, to recall St. Kitts and Nevis passports issued prior to July 2014, which did not show the place of birth of persons to whom the passport were issued. The recall and replacement were originally to run over a short window, December 10 to 31st of December 2014. Public outcry led to the deadline being extended to March the 31st, 2015. Subsequently, there had been further extensions to that particular time frame. Based on records provided by the Canadian banknote, some 15,197 regular passports, 91 diplomatic, and 39 official passports were issued by the last government without the country of birth field. My government has taken the decision to deactivate all passports issued by the former government without the country of birth field. All such holders will have to reapply for a new passport which will contain the relevant country of birth field, and they will pay the cost of the new passport. This, of course, is an imperative to safeguard the integrity of our passport, to comply with international best practices, and to satisfy our commitment to being a responsible member of the international community. I would want to remind citizens that to avoid inconveniences in their travel, they should ensure that their passport has some validity for at least 6 months before they make arrangements for travel. It was policy actions like the removal of the country of birth or origin field by the former administration that made our passport and to some extent our country somewhat of a pariah. It is amazing that in 2 years, international confidence in our passport is now at an all-time high. Specific initiatives of my government, such as increasing our diplomatic footprint and the number of countries with which we now have visa-free entry, have helped. So too have our competitive tax policy, the high level of democratic freedoms, including press freedoms, enjoyed here, and the enhanced reputation of our country attributed inter alia to the platinum status of our reorganized CBI program, resulting in our prestigious standing. The international acclaim of St. Kitts and Nevis as a tourist destination, as well as our exceptionally high ranking among the most dynamic countries investing in ICTs, our fiscal surpluses and tax-free budgets have no doubt also impacted positively on the perception of our beloved country. I want to now turn to some matters of national public safety and security, and to make the point that our efforts at enhancing public safety and security continues unabated. Every effort is being made to create the safest environment for our people and the residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. In keeping with our strategic plan, training continues, and a few of these are worthy of mention. We had a forensic awareness course, which was held on February 14, 2017, and this was facilitated by the internationally renowned Cellmark Forensic Services. Emphasis was placed on gunshot residue, DNA, and sexual offenses. 21 officers participated, and they were drawn from across the crime scene unit, violent crimes unit, special victims unit, and CID. In attendance also were our Assistant Commissioners of Police, Mitchell and Hughes, and Superintendent Mills and David also were in attendance. I would further like to advise that we have had exposure of at least 2 gazetted officers for the year so far in capacity building for combating small arms and light weapons. That particular training exercise took place in January of 2017. According to ACP Terence James, who participated in this training, 70% of violent crimes in CARICOM are committed using small arms and light weapons. 70%, I repeat, of violent crimes in CARICOM are committed using small arms and light weapons. Therefore, you could appreciate the importance of our participation in these training endeavors. The facilitators for this particular course came from IMPACS, Interpol, Arms Trade Treaty Committee, ATT, a veritable best of the best in this regard. 2 officers participated in advanced polygraph training. It is being contemplated that polygraph tests will be administered going forward to all recruits. I repeat, all recruits in our law enforcement agencies, the police, immigration, prison, customs and excise, and the defense force. This enhanced vetting will allow for better quality personnel into law enforcement and better information and action regarding the vulnerabilities of these persons who are being recruited. Importantly for us also, we need to add to the manpower the bodies that are visible in the street. And in this regard, I'm happy to report that Commissioner Quealy has advised that he is ready to start training of the new recruits come March 20th, 2017. Another important initiative under the rubric of national safety and security has to do with our prisons, or as some would prefer, we describe it as our National Detention and Rehabilitation Center. I am pleased to report that at long last, the long-awaited correctional and rehabilitation facility is now in active mode. Some 9 entities expressed interest in tendering for the preparation of designs, etc., for the new correctional facility which will be built at Estridge Estate. 6 were shortlisted, 3 from St. Kitts and Nevis, 1 from Barbados, 1 from Jamaica, and 1 from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You ask why we are opening it up? Part of the good governance agenda. We are opening up to ensure that we get the best value for money. 5 submitted their tenders by the deadline date. However, the tender from Eustace Hobson and Associates was adjudged the overall best by the evaluation committee. I repeat, the tender from Eustace Hobson and Associates was adjudged the overall best by the evaluation committee. And for the record, the evaluation committee is not the cabinet. No politician sat on this committee. Accordingly, in keeping with the good governance which some are demanding and the associated best value for money, Eustace Hobson and Associates was awarded the contract. So we let the tendering process speak for itself. As we speak, this site in Estridge is being cleared to facilitate better topographical surveys of the location and to obtain better site drawings. Our capital projects for 2017, well, our capital budget provides EC 2.2 million in relation to this new facility at Estridge. Third element under national security would be the upgrade work at the Coast Guard headquarters. So we are moving along all of the law enforcement agencies. Since January 09, 2017, the reconstruction of the Coast Guard barracks commenced in earnest. Work is advancing well and is expected to be completed during the last quarter of 2017. I gather the Coast Guard has very competent people with some technical skills, and they are, in fact, the primary labor source for the construction activity that is taking place there. And equally important, they are being assisted by Her Majesty's Prison. We anticipate that we will spend just over $500,000 on this project in materials and subcontracting of certain technical aspects of labor where the case would emerge. A fourth intervention for law and order, thanks to Team Unity, standby generators are being purchased. In fact, they should shortly be here to ensure that police stations have a constant supply of electricity. This is critical to ensure the constant readiness of our police in particular to issue of safety and security and to get their timely response to criminal activities. Some of the police stations which require these facilities would include Tabernacle, Deep Bay, Old Road. Stations in Nevis, other than Charlestown, are among those that will benefit. I gather Charlestown is not included, because while there, Brandy ensured that Charlestown was well outfitted. So those outside of Charlestown will now be the beneficiary. The fifth initiative, which has been announced by Commissioner Quealy, is that come 2017, the police will begin utilizing drones in crime fighting. So that is a significant application of technology in surveillance and other works. So we are adding to our capacity to deliver. Sixth initiative, $750,000 that has been budgeted for the maintenance and repairs of all of our police stations. The serious neglect by the former administration of the St. Paul's Police Station, Newcastle, all of them had to, in fact, we had to have the officers removed out of them for health and safety reasons. The Old Road Police Station, the Keon Police Station, indeed you could go on and on. This neglect, in our view, spoke volumes to the indifference of the former regime to the quality of life being experienced by law enforcement officers. And when you add what is happening then in relation to our police, the serious state of dilapidation, to the fact that our Coast Guard headquarters was in a similar position, you see a pattern. And it is difficult to differ with the view that the former administration did not prioritize or did not care. We are going to be expending this year $835,000, just under $1 million, to procure fire trucks. So we have prisons, we are doing work for the police, we are doing work on Coast Guard, we are doing for fire. We are treating all the areas, and we are forced to because of what the sad inheritance was in terms of the state of play of the situation of these entities. The eighth initiative I'm pleased to relate to is that a new traffic policy is to be unveiled shortly. The police have recommended traffic meters in the city center, a redefinition of the St. Johnson's police station. And in our town halls, people ask, is this a police station or a traffic station? Because sometimes they will go there, and according to the reports, they would not get the attention and care. They will be told to go elsewhere. And so we have asked that as part of the new policy, that the High Command should redefine, where necessary, the role of what is, quote unquote, the St. Johnson's police station. Is it a police station? Then if it is, shouldn't that be the first call for the people up at the JNF hospital, rather than they have to go to Bastia, or people are told to go there? And what hours will it be open? So we expect all of those to be part of the policy. There's a recommendation that there be a record attached to the traffic department, that we have a bill-out of the patrol unit and the privatization of some aspects of traffic control and management. I want to thank the Commission, the other officers for their work on this policy document. I'm advised that former Commissioner of Police Austin Williams gave input into this document, and I want to thank him for volunteering his effort. It is a mark of his high commitment to his country and to law enforcement in particular, that he should take time to engage in this critical area. Cabinet will study the recommendations and will advise in due course regarding which of these recommendations we could adopt this year. I want finally, under that rubric, to commend our law enforcement officers for their successes thus far. We have heard of their efforts at intercepting drugs and cocaine and all those other things. We have heard of the breakthrough in the news, I think it was yesterday, with respect to a significant robbery in Nevis. And we note in particular the significant reduction in homicides for the months of January and February to date. For the 2 months just ended, we have had 2 homicides versus 6 in 2016, 9 in 2015. So we are moving in the right direction. And I want to follow the wise counsel of Richard Keynes in knocking board, and to hope that that particular trend will continue for the rest of the year. It must be a good note of confidence for the police to be aware that our citizens and residents do prefer this pattern of downward reduction in serious crimes, and the bulk of the country is with you as you pursue your serious efforts at crime reduction. Yesterday, I had the distinct honor to distribute an award to Miss Lucretia Sargent of Tabernacle, a businesswoman, a retailer of over 25 years plus standing. She was one of the 8 women honored on the occasion of International Women's Day. I want to congratulate, now as I did then, all 8 of the awardees, and to commend Senator Wendy Phipps and the rest of the ministry for their work in acknowledging the contribution of women to national life. The 8, for the record, were Miss Yvette Slack in the area of public service, Miss Michelle Delacroix Blake, who is a well-known counselor, Roberta Patricia Leader, famous at the Grange for gerontology, Antoinette Henry in athletics and in particular volleyball, Beulah Mills was acclaimed for work in tourism, Shirley Boone Julius for volunteerism, Tiandra Brown, Sadlers for work in construction, and of course Lucretia Sargent for entrepreneurship. Those were the 8. Our Team Unity administration recognizes that without the effective participation of women in all areas of national life, progress and development will be stultified and be at best anemic. Accordingly, we have, through advocacy and encouragement, invited our women to be active in all areas of national life. In this regard, we are pleased to have, as part of our legacy, the appointment of the first woman cabinet secretary in Mrs. Josephine Huggins. The cabinet secretary is the highest ranking public officer outside, well, in the Westminster model, the administration of government, and we have done this for the first time. We are pleased that as part of our legacy will be that we appointed the first woman as national chair of our Independence Committee. Senator Wendy Phipps has been leading that activity over the last 2 years. And last year we had a tremendous program for independence, 1 month long. We are hoping that she will be able, she and the committee, to outdo themselves for this year. We are honored to have had the first woman press secretary in the office of the Prime Minister in Miss Valencia Grant. And we could see the marked difference between then and now, and I need not say more. We are happy too that the first woman to lead our embassy in Cuba is Miss Verna Morris, appointed by this administration. And we are equally proud to have female senators on the government side in the persons of Senators the Honorable Wendy Phipps and the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, both of whom are here. Our government takes pride too in the fact that we have appointed Miss Merslin. I'm so accustomed to say Dolly, it becomes hard. Dolly Hughes as the Assistant Commissioner of Police. This is a historic first in law enforcement for St. Kitts and Nevis. We are therefore satisfied, but we are not sitting on our laurels with regard to our treatment and the elevation of our women folk, and we congratulate them all on their outstanding contribution to the country.